Hey everyone, it's Ed Gutowski. What I wanted to do was to make a welcome video to kind of introduce you to class and talk about the textbooks for class. You are in for a real treat because I think this may be the best English 1C class that I'm teaching online this semester. So I'll talk about the books, talk about the class a little bit just to give you an understanding of the course itself. But a couple things is that we will never meet in person, right? Everything is done through the modules, and you basically have a week to complete all of the assignments. And so I'm teaching several online classes. So our class, everything is due by Friday at midnight. I do have some Zoom office hours, so we can meet on Zoom if you want. And what I found in the past is that everyone really likes the flexibility of having that full week to work on coursework and class assignments. So English 1C is a class that deals with rhetoric and argument. That's what we solely deal with. And let me tell you, students both online and on ground love the rhetoric and argument part of class. It's always fun. So we'll do things such as look at logos, pathos, ethos, talk about fallacies. There are several different types of arguments that we'll look at with regards to the Hegelian argument and stasis theory. But either which way, you should just know English 1C is a really, really fun class. So, and I'm really excited about the books we're going to read. So let me talk about the books we're going to read. This is the first book we're going to look at, which is called Into the Wild. And Into the Wild is kind of a really, there's some really interesting arguments that sort of go through this novel. And what I found is that sometimes students may have read Into the Wild before, but even students who have read it before really liked coming back and looking at the novel and really looking at some of the arguments that the novel deals with. And what I found in many cases is students can really relate to this novel because the main character in this book is a student in college. And so, and as he's going through college, this kid has two kind of big questions. What do I want out of my life? What do I want out of my education? And I think oftentimes students have these same questions. And what this kid does is he does something foolish and bizarre. He basically graduates from college, sells all of his possessions, disappears, and no one knows what happened to him. 6 months later, he walks into Alaska with 10 pounds of rice and a pistol and tries to live off the land. And John Krakauer, is the author, kind of wants to know what would motivate a kid who had everything going from him, coming from a well-to-do family, having some money. Why would he make such a rash decision? And the novel's engaging, it's a lot of fun, and again, I know that sometimes students have read it before, but they really appreciate the kind of lesson plan because it's really tailored for a rhetoric and argument class. Now the second book we're going to look at is actually a graphic novel called The Harlem Hellfighters Club, which is actually, I've taught it before and it had great success, and it really deals with the 1st Black Regiment during World War I. And so we can look at World War I with regards to just rhetoric itself, but then it also opens up some more interesting arguments about race and racism both in America and during World War I. When I taught it in the spring, students loved it. So we'll kind of talk about, see what your experience is like reading a graphic novel, looking at World War I. We're also going to read a book called City of Thieves, and this is the first time I'm teaching it online. I taught it in a ground class, and it was wonderful. It's a book, it's kind of interesting because what it deals with is it deals with World War II and the Battle of Leningrad as the Russians kind of occupy, the Germans occupy this Russian city, and it's an amazingly powerful novel. And this novel is interesting because there are kind of two really big arguments about this novel. Is it a novel about the Holocaust, or is it a novel about World War II? So we'll really kind of get into, and that's where kind of stasis theory will come in, where we can define what these terms mean. It's probably the best novel that I've taught in a long time. It's very similar if you've read Cormac McCarthy's The Road. It's just the backdrop is World War II. We're also going to read one play by Shakespeare, Henry V, and Henry V is epic. And I will prepare you for Shakespeare. I know a lot of times Shakespeare can be hard in a ground class, much less online, but I've had really good success. I've retailored my lesson plan, and in the end, students really ended up writing some really strong papers. And Henry V is epic because it's a play about war, politics, and rhetoric. So there's a lot that we can play around with that. We'll also look at Siegel Reader essays. You'll write 4 essays based on the Siegel Reader essays. Siegel Reader essays has actually been voted the best book that I've used in my class. Students like the topics, they like the arguments. It's pretty engaging, so that'll be fun. And then we're going to look at Everything's an Argument. And I've been using this textbook for quite some time, and it's really helpful because it'll help us understand what rhetoric is, it'll help us understand what argument is. And we will start using it. So I just wanted to sort of introduce you, have kind of a welcome video, you kind of understanding of the novels. Our class is going to be a lot of fun, and I'm really looking forward to engaging you and thinking what you think of rhetoric and argument. And if you have any questions, you can just email me or come by my Zoom office hours.